So I've not exactly seen eye to eye with Dr. Jason Johnson. Now, I have been blocked on Twitter by him by lightly criticizing him for at least since 2016. Okay, things got a little heated in the primary. And, you know, I might have criticized him a little bit. Okay. However, he did make a fairly decent point about race relations in this country and had criticized Joe Biden on part of his speech. Now, this, of course, involves Biden's remarks involving the Tulsa race massacre, which, 100 years old. And so, here's what he said on that. Quote, "I've never been more optimistic about the future than I am today. I mean that young Americans are least prejudiced and most open generation in American history." All right, hey, that's totally fine if you leave it right there. Although, here's what he continues. He said, "Although I have no scientific basis for what I'm about to say," oh, then don't say it. Oh God, don't say it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh God, don't do it. He says, "Those of you over 50, how often do you see advertisements on TV with black and white couples? Not a joke. I challenge you. Find today when you turn on the stations, sit on one station for 2 hours, and I don't know how many commercials you'll see. Probably 8 to 5, 2 to 3 out of the 5 have mixed race couples in them. That's not by accident." So, wait. Because there are commercials with mixed families, that means we did it. Congratulations, we have defeated the racism. We've ended the racisms, everybody. Yeah, man, black people are selling soap now. The Geico commercials. It's over. We defeated it. Racism's over. Except that, no, of course, we have not. That's ridiculous. That is far from it. And again, Biden's own plans are to try to, bridge the equity gap, right? When it comes to black folks. And of course, there's the issues with policing, which unfortunately Biden's going in the wrong direction. He's trying to give more money to the police, which is, again, not the way that you want to go. We have disparities in health, which would be solved by, pushing for a Medicare for all, single payer plan, or at least the public option, which you seem to have given up on. Housing, which again, one of his plans does address. Education and wealth also does address, but in my opinion, doesn't go far enough. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, look, we have a lot of problems in this country. When it comes to equality, racial equality, what do we do something about it? And that involves a sort of transformational change that Biden doesn't seem to be all that interested in doing. So, I mean, come on, man. And yes, his point about the younger generation being based and less racist, that's great. But guess what? Older people are still in charge. Older people and the system, older people maintain the system and run the system as it is. So if you don't change the system and you just let younger people inherit that same old system, things aren't going to change for a very, very, very long time. That's the problem. We should be solving the problem now and get rid of that oppression, okay? And that systemic racism. So anyway, that said, Dr. Jason Johnson, he was not impressed with Biden's take as well. And so I want to show you that because I think actually he says some pretty sensible things in it. Take a look.
As for the act of voting itself, I urge vote.
Wrong video. Sorry.
And I want to be really clear about this for everybody to understand. Yes, it is great that Joe Biden said that this was a massacre and this is terrible, et cetera, et cetera. But we don't need programs for disadvantaged people. We don't need programs for excluded people. This was a black attack. White people went and massacred black people. And it happened all around the country during that time. And we need to be able to speak about that specifically. And I have to say this because it's also something very near and dear to me, and I wrote about this in the Grill. I know that Joe Biden is a good, decent man. He wanted to recover the soul of this nation, and he looks at things in a sort of optimistic way. But please do not tell us, in the face of an insurrection, in the face of what we see in Texas, in the face of rising white nationalism in this country, please don't tell me that a Geico commercial with an interracial couple means that we're turning the corner, because it doesn't. And it diminishes what's actually happening in this country. So, look, I know he was well-meaning, and I know this was intentional, but I was left wanting after this speech and really quite frustrated about how serious this administration is taking the challenges that our country, and in particular black people, are facing going forward.
Wow. Dr. Jason Johnson and MSNBC actually criticizing Biden. Fascinating. Yeah, and I thought I'd seen everything. Look, Biden's a politician. So, and what he does as a politician is that he licks his finger and sticks it up in the air and sees when, which way the wind's blowing. Back when the country was far more openly racist and Biden was in Congress, he had no problem in Congress pushing forward and passing and co-sponsoring some of the most heinous bills towards the black community. But now, thankfully, he's not doing that. All right. So now he's like, oh, my bad. I'm going to fix the problem that I created. Oh, well, I mean, at least you're trying to fix the problem that you created. But wow. Yeah. So again, commercials, as Jason Johnson points out, don't mean anything. Don't mean shit. Mixed race commercials. Woke capitalism. I'm telling you, woke capitalism ain't going to fix racism. That's not the solution. Okay. Again, let me go back to a quote from here from Martin Luther King Jr. So I'm just going to kind of, summarize it. I can't get the quote exact, but he basically said, what good, does it do for somebody to be able to sit at the lunch counter if you can't afford a hamburger? And that's sort of what the black community is going through right now. There's a lack of wealth. And there are still systemic barriers in the way of the black community being able to catch up when it comes to wealth. That's why reparations are actually something that people need to be talking about. Okay? Racism and these systemic issues have prevented the black community from building the type of wealth that white Americans enjoy. Events like the Tulsa massacre, for example, are how they destroyed black wealth. Along with, of course, slavery, Jim Crow, and then literally burning down black-owned businesses and communities and middle-class neighborhoods in order to send people back into generational poverty and despair. Why? Because white racist people couldn't handle the fact that black people, on their own, left to their own devices, actually did incredibly well. And like, nope, couldn't have it. Nope. Those systems, by the way, that keep black people down, economically depressed, are still existent in society. And they have to be dismantled. They have to be torn down piece by piece if we're actually ever going to get anything close to resembling real equality of opportunity. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.